Tell me if you've heard that. Tell me if you've heard this before. Michael Bidwell is embarrassing the Arizona Cardinals after receiving failing grades. Plus, my Jalen Green discourse has reached the outer ends of NBA Twitter. Do I regret it? I don't. And we'll talk about the Suns beating the Los Angeles Lakers last night on this edition of the Ben Garcia Show.
The Ben Garcia Show. Yeah. Woo. Best show in the land. Yup. Listen. Come and get your information from Ben Garcia. Get the latest on your quarterback, running backs, and receivers. Tune in, so any other show you don't need them. Any news that he giving out, please just believe him. Giving out the latest prediction and top-notch analysis. Wanna hear the truth, better have thick skin like callus. The latest move that your team just made can be damaging. The dudes ain't speaking no facts, they just be rambling. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. Yeah. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. The Ben Garcia Show.
What up and what's up? Welcome in to yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening, thank you so much for making myself and this show a part of your day. We have a lot of things to get into on this edition of the Ben Garcia Show. So before I get to there, hit that like, hit that share, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Something tells me there'll be a decent amount of Twitter viewership today on the show, given some of my discourse on Jalen Green that we will talk about, and we will do that later in the show. But before that, let's start here. And for those that are wondering why I'm going live today at 10 a.m., it's because I had a very important phone call this morning, a very important career meeting. Nothing is imminent with me. But still just talking. Great meeting this morning with someone who I cannot name. But that's stuff that sometimes I just have to move shows around. But for those of you that don't know, I am normally live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. That is almost never going to change unless I have a big meeting that I have to get to. And that's what happened this morning. So until that happens again, I am normally here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. But let's start right here. Michael Bidwell continues to embarrass the Arizona Cardinals. Surprise, surprise, to no one's chagrin, Michael Bidwell has embarrassed the Arizona Cardinals once again. The NFLPA report cards came out, which, by the way, the Arizona Cardinals, not really the Arizona Cardinals, but Michael Bidwell and the Arizona Cardinals were one of the few teams who were trying to suppress these from coming out. And to no avail, they still found a way to leak them. I don't know how they did it, but they did. And teams are graded in 17 areas from the NFLPA report card. The Cardinals were the only team not to receive a single A in any one of the categories. From food and dining area, C-, training staff, B-, weight room, D+, training room, D+, head coach, B+, team travel, C+, ownership, F. The only owner to get an F was Michael Bidwell across the entire NFL landscape. And you say to yourself, is this guy ever going to get a clue? The other day, Chris Carter came out, had some things to say about Michael Bidwell, said that he couldn't talk about them because his guy, Larry Fitzgerald, was playing with them for so long. But he mentioned that the ownership is an embarrassment. He mentioned that what the Cardinals have been doing over the last couple of seasons, over the duration of Larry Fitzgerald's career, was pure dysfunction. And it is not only an embarrassment that Michael Bidwell tried to suppress these report cards from coming out, and it's not just embarrassing. I guess I should say, it's not embarrassing enough on its own that Michael Bidwell tried to suppress these NFLPA report cards that were coming out. It's not enough that Michael Bidwell got an F-. It's the fact that he sees these things and has no interest of changing. Woody Johnson, who was perceived as the worst owner in the NFL, might have just been supplanted by Michael Bidwell. And it's one of the reasons why you continuously say to yourself, why do I support this organization? Why do I cover this team? Why do I go to games? If you know this team's got no shot with ownership at the helm. I've talked about this before. Michael Bidwell has the I am smarter than you act. And it has gotten so old that at some point you just wish the guy would drop it. At this point, what Michael Bidwell is doing is actively sabotaging the Arizona Cardinals. And nothing will get better here until ownership changes. If there is one thing you get from the NFLPA report cards, it's this. And it's truly just this. The Arizona Cardinals will never be a functional organization that continuously gets to the playoffs until A, ownership changes, or B, Michael Bidwell takes a hard look in the mirror and has some real self-reflection and says, I've got to change the way I do things. Maybe I'm not the richest owner in the NFL, but I should fork over some money to make it work. And I should stop meddling in day-to-day activities. I should stop cosplaying as an NFL guy, as a football guy. He has a degree in law or whatever. He's a former federal prosecutor. That should be Michael Bidwell's lane. Make sure the Cardinals don't get sued. But the only owner to receive an the only owner to receive an F in the NFLPA report cards is Michael Bidwell. And there's no signs of changing. Just a guy who looks at the landscape and says, no, you adapt to me. I don't adapt to you. And it's an embarrassment to this organization. It truly is. And nothing can ever change until Michael Bidwell takes a look in the mirror. You know, for a long time now, the discussion was always Woody Johnson is the worst owner in the NFL. Or the Brown family with the Bengals. Or, Jimmy Haslam with the Browns. The NFL has a new worst owner, according to the players. Because the only one to receive an F was Michael Bidwell. And the Arizona Cardinals will never be a consistent, functional organization until A, he sells the team, or B, he has some real self-reflection, looks in the mirror and says, I've got to change the way I do things. Does that mean the Arizona Cardinals will never have seasons where they fluky get to the Super Bowl, or they win a division, or they look really good for a 2-season stretch? No, they'll catch lightning in a bottle. Every team does that. Remember the Browns? They were like a couple of plays away from an AFC Conference Championship game a couple of years ago. That doesn't change the fact that they're a dysfunctional organization. The Arizona Cardinals will have seasons where you're proud to be a fan, or like myself, someone that covers the team. But nothing will ever change until Michael Bidwell changes his ways. And the fact that it continuously gets worse year over year, and there is still no light at the end of the tunnel where you think Bidwell might actually do it. he might actually change. He clearly thinks what he does is the correct way to do things. It's so interesting. You would think someone who was born on third base and has the money of Michael Bidwell and has seen his family succeed and can learn from what they've done. It's so interesting to see 100 years of garbage football. What I think is more interesting is the fact that you can see 100 years of garbage football, and Michael Bidwell still looks at it and says, no, the way I do things will work. What I'm doing right now is the correct way to run an organization. That will forever be the most interesting part about Michael Bidwell. That right there. The fact that it doesn't matter, 100 years of bad football, and he still thinks the way he does things is the correct way to do things. That will forever be interesting to me. Here's the other thing. And, I know that there's people in here, I'm sure, excited to hear what I'm going to say about some of the discourse that's going on with Jalen Green, which we'll talk about in a little bit later in the show. But here's the other thing I'll say. The Arizona Cardinals, I have been a firm believer as we turn over to the NFL Combine. I have been a firm believer in the Arizona Cardinals need to take the best player available. I think this organization has a lack of elite level football talent on it. And I think if you're the Arizona Cardinals, you're just looking to accumulate good football players. I think when you start drafting for position alone, then you start to have some issues. I think there's a mix to be had where you talk about positional value and you talk about the best player available. Yes, is the best player available in the draft probably Jeremiah Love? Absolutely. The problem is Jeremiah Love is a running back. Well, what about at the safety position? Caleb Downs could also be this person that might be the best player in the draft. The problem is he plays safety. So when I talk about taking the best player available in the NFL draft, I guess I should have prefaced it with they also need to talk about taking the best player available at a premium position. And when I talk about running back and safety, I just don't feel like that's the case. And that led me to Ruben Bain Jr. Ruben Bain Jr. has been the guy on who has been the apple of my eye, the pinnacle of my draft board, if I had one. Because what I saw him do out in Miami in a national championship game, nearly willing them to a national championship. That was something to behold. And I know the underwear Olympics that is the Combine can be a little disheartening. But one of the reasons why I might have to go back on that take is from what I've saw yesterday at the draft combine. Ruben Bain Jr. has some of the smallest arms. Some of the smallest arms in draft history. And then you see the statistics of players with short arms, like really short arms, don't last in the NFL. Or at least they don't have lasting impacts like you would ask a third overall pick to have. So now I feel like I might be overthinking the room at this point. I don't love what I saw from Ruben Bain Jr. at the Combine. And so it leads me to believe now the Cardinals just can't miss at the third overall pick. And I'm not necessarily off the Ruben Bain Jr. track. I think his measurements were a little scary yesterday, seeing the fact that he's got, damn near T-Rex arms. And now you're expecting him to just rely on bulldozing over 300-pound linemen, that feels a bit far-fetched to me. There are still really good options at number 3 when you talk about a pass rusher like David Bailey. But at the end of the day, the Cardinals just can't get this wrong. And I am the closest I've been since the start of draft season of switching over to the Francis Mauigoa or Maui Noah. Am I messing up his name there? Whatever. I am very close to changing teams when it comes to where the Arizona Cardinals should go in the NFL draft. Seeing yesterday what we saw with Ruben Bain Jr. and his measurements being a little scary, and the fact that he has like historically short arms, and there's a long track record of players with short arms rushing the passer being nothing more than just a guy. And when you're selecting at 3rd overall, you're trying to get a difference maker. David Bailey, there's been some character concerns. Do I want to bring those kind of guys in here? I don't know. At the end of the day, that is ultimately up to the Arizona Cardinals. But at the end of the day, the Arizona Cardinals just have to get it right. And it's not to say that the Arizona Cardinals have to take Ruben Bain Jr. or David Bailey. If the Cardinals feel like Francis Mauigoa or Maui Noah is the number 1 player on their draft boards, and he plays a premium position in offensive tackle, then you just have to take him. At the end of the day, the Cardinals should not be looking for just any talent. They have to be looking for premium talent while talking about positional value. And offensive tackle feels like that for the Arizona Cardinals. It does. But at the end of the day, like, we're talking about best player or, position, position of need. At the end of the day, they have to get it right. And it's not great analysis on my part. But this has a lot riding on the shoulders of Monty Ossenfort, the GM of the Arizona Cardinals. He has to get this right. And so whether your team Ruben Bain Jr. or your team Francis Mauigoa or your team Spencer Fanu or Jeremiah Love or Caleb Downs, the Cardinals just have to pick the best player on their board. They have to trust their scouting, and they've got to get the best player available. They cannot afford to mess up this pick. They seriously cannot. And so it doesn't really matter who you want. It's all just about who the Cardinals trust at the best player available spot. And if the best player on their draft board is Francis Mauigoa or Ruben Bain Jr. or David Bailey, that's who they need to go with. The Cardinals cannot go into this draft so dead set on, we are going to draft this position at the 3rd overall pick. You can do that in the 2nd round or in the 3rd round or in the 4th round. That's okay. What they cannot do is force the issue in trying to fix something when there's just an elite level ball player that might be at a position that isn't as in dire need as maybe a different one. So I know it's a bit of a cop-out answer, but the Cardinals can't go into this draft dead set on, we need an offensive tackle in the 1st round. We need an edge. We need a running back. We need a safety. They need to trust their board, and they've got to take the best player available at a premium position. They cannot get this wrong. You are legitimately talking about Monty Ossenfort. I mean, losing his job if he screws up this one. So it's a long-winded way of saying the Ruben Bain Jr. thing is starting to scare me. Let's talk about what the NBA world, it feels like. It's not actually the case. The NBA world is on my head about right now when it comes to the Phoenix Suns. I'm not going to address as I look at, oh my goodness, every person in the world who is talking to me about the Jalen Green talk. Like, I woke up this morning and my Jalen Green quick minute snippet went from having like 17,000 views on Twitter, which is somewhat standard for me, to I think it's like almost close to 100,000. Rockets fans, which is who it was Rockets fans, took a tweet I said about Rockets fans wishing they can go back on the Kevin Durant trade, which I still think. Give it time. Give it time. And that I believe that they are one of the most disappointing teams in the NBA. And I think that's going to be the case. Give it time. And it was true at the time. Now, things can change. Are they that way now? Probably not, but give it time. I was mostly trolling in that tweet. I was having some fun with Rockets fans. So did I embellish a little bit? Absolutely. But that tweet had nothing to do with Jalen Green. If people were not being lazy, they'd do 1 ounce of research Jalen Green on my social medias and see that I have been the only consistent Arizona sports media member on Jalen Green. And so what I'll say to that is, I think 2 things can be true. I think the Suns won the Kevin Durant trade by getting Kevin Durant out of the building. I think there's a reason why he's been a journeyman since the Warriors days. I think there's a reason he has trouble having any playoff success in about 5-7 years now. I think it's very interesting that outside of having the greatest team ever constructed, hasn't won a championship. So that's what I'll say about that. Did I maybe embellish a little too much on a tweet one night? Probably. And I'll probably do it again. It's not going to stop me. But the Suns won last night. And I want to talk about that. The first thing I'll say about the Suns, and don't worry, Jalen Green will come back up again. Don't worry, baby birds. I'll feed you. But the one thing that I learned about the Phoenix Suns last night is, damn, the 3-point shot matters a lot to this team. I mean, it matters so much. And I wonder how sustainable that is. And to be fair, it's kind of a bad take to say that it's not sustainable because they've been doing it for most of the year. But when the playoffs roll around, do I really trust Colin Gillespie, who I love, and Jordan Goodwin, who I love, to hit a bunch of threes when the whistle gets swallowed and the games get tighter? I don't know. I probably should trust them, but I just haven't seen it yet in a playoff setting. So we'll see. The other big aha moment I had last night was when we're talking about things that I was actually wrong about. Is Grayson Allen matters so much to this team. In, I think it was December, Grayson Allen, who had already been injured, was having a career year. And part of the reason why I wanted to move on from Allen was because the Suns had real issues in the front court. Real problems in the front court. They were deficient in talent. They were deficient in depth there. And the Suns, my argument was they had 6 guards. Goodwin, Booker, Green, Gillespie, Allen, Bouye. They had all these players. And I made the argument of, well, move Grayson, who they were trying to move in the offseason, by the way. That was wildly reported, and no one bid on it. Move Grayson, get a forward in here, because you were trying to move him in the offseason anyways. That feels like the wrong take now. Grayson matters so much to this team. And that is something that I don't think my eyes were really open to until last night. I thought it was very interesting that on a team in which everyone told me Jalen Green was better and Jalen Green was, going to be an elite level offensive player or even just a good offensive player here, the real Robin to Devin Booker. One, I think it's interesting that Jalen Green would not have finished the game last night, would not have closed out the game last night outside of the very last play where he literally did not touch the ball. But I think it's interesting that Jordan Ott agrees with me. The final play of the game, and Grayson wasn't shooting well last night. He was 9 for 24. Jordan Ott said, I'm going to put the ball in Grayson Allen's hands, not Jalen Green's hands. And credit to Grayson for getting the switch on Luka, which was probably planned. And Grayson gets to the basket and makes an absolutely otherworldly pass. And effectively wins the Suns the game. My biggest take from last night has nothing to do with Jalen Green. It was the fact of, I got to say, I might have been wrong on that Grayson Allen thing. He is so important, and he's such a complete basketball player, and he has really elevated his game. Is he a Robin? Is he a Batman? No. But can he be your fourth best player on a championship winning team? Fifth best player? Yeah, I actually think he is. And currently this year, he's just the third best Phoenix Sun. Now let's talk about Jalen Green. Listen, I've already addressed the Rockets aspect of it. This is an Arizona sports centered show. I'm not going to go back and forth with people on social media. I've always been consistent about my Jalen Green discourse, and that is just purely this. Jalen Green is an inefficient basketball player. And last night, 4 for 15. The night before that, 5 for 18. The game before that, 6 for 16. Magic, 6 for 26. Spurs, he finally made 10 shots in a game, and he scored 26 points on 23 attempts. I have been very consistent on Jalen Green. I think I'm the only Arizona sports media member who has actually been honest and consistent about Jalen Green discourse. The only one, I think. I don't think I've seen anyone else out there. If that changes, I'll change what I say about that. Jalen Green, forget about his points. Forget about his attempts. He has 10 assists in the last 5 games. 10 assists in the last 5 games. And in one of those games, they played like 5 quarters. This was always my concern with Jalen Green. He is too much mano-a-mano, one-on-one player. This is why I argued at the beginning of the season, which I deserve way more credit for, making the argument that Colin Gillespie is just the better fit in the starting lineup than Jalen Green is. He is not a real fit, a seamless fit on this Suns team. I don't think when Devin Booker comes back, he's just going to remember how to shoot the basketball. He's got to be a much more efficient player. He doesn't shoot the ball well from 3. He is not efficient around the rim. Again, people can get mad at me all they want. I'm just telling you exactly what the statistics say. He's bad around the rim. He's bad behind the arc. Chucks up shots early in shot clocks. Doesn't move the ball around. And that has nothing to do with him only playing 11, 12 games this year. If he came into these games and was playing a style of basketball that fit what the Suns were doing, and he was just struggling to shoot the ball, I would not be as hard on him. 10 assists through 5 games tells me he's not moving the ball around. Tells me when he gets the ball, he's shooting it. And I know I've been ragging and bagging on Jalen Green for the last week, and it kind of needs to stop because at some point it just gets irritating for everyone. Like, yeah, man, we get it. He's not playing well. But given recent events today on a short that I put out on social media that now has, close to 100,000 views on it, I'll continue to say what I've always been saying. Jalen Green's got to be a more efficient basketball player. And his style of play that he is playing with currently, that was the same way he played in Houston, is not helpful. And it's not a seamless fit. And so that's where I'll go with that. Good win for the Suns, though. Absolutely good win for the Suns. Now just a game back of the Lakers, and they have the tiebreaker, and you're getting Devin Booker back soon. And keep in mind, the Rockets are the 3 seed. Here's what I will say. Oh, man. I've set myself up for a very bad day if the Suns play the Rockets in the playoffs, because I am all about a matchups guy. All about matchups. And if the Suns played the Rockets in the playoffs, they would lose. The Rockets are a superb matchup for the Phoenix Suns. Superb. Honestly, I think the Rockets probably beat them in 5 games. Like, matchups matter. I think the Suns match up well with a lot of teams. Like, if they played the Lakers, they would just steamroll the Lakers. If they played the Timberwolves, I think they'd beat them too. But the Rockets, the fact that they are long, they are rangy, they are big, that can make life hell for the Phoenix Suns. And if the Suns and Rockets match up in the first round of the playoffs, woo! Oh, I've set myself up for not a great day on, so it might just delete the socials that day. But until then, I'm Benjamin Garcia. It's been the Ben Garcia Show. Do me a favor, hit that like, share, subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Reminder, we're normally live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 a.m. This 10 a.m. nonsense won't happen again on Monday when we will be here at 8 a.m. Until then, hit that like, share, subscribe button. My name is Benjamin Garcia. It's been the Ben Garcia Show. Appreciate you guys being here. See you again.